Paradise Station hung in space like a jeweled snowflake, its crystalline spires refracting starlight into 1,000 rainbow patterns. To First Administrator Nixus, whose species had evolved in the darkness of a tidally locked planet, the station's beauty still took her breath away even after 50 cycles of service. Her iridescent scales shimmered as she gazed through the observation dome, all four of her eyes tracking the usual traffic of luxury yachts and pleasure cruisers that made Paradise Station the most exclusive resort destination in the spiral arm. First Administrator, a voice chimed softly from behind her. The anomaly readings require your immediate attention. Nixus turned to face Senior Scientist Varn, noting how the crystalline being's usual smooth luminescence had taken on an erratic pattern, a sign of severe distress among the Lumini. "Show me," she commanded, moving to the holographic display that dominated the center of her office. The projection showed a region of space approximately 2 light-years from Paradise Station. At first glance, it appeared empty, but as Varn adjusted the sensors, a tiny point of incredibly dense matter became visible. "We detected it 3 days ago during a routine gravitational survey," Varn explained, their voice creating patterns of light that rippled through their crystalline form. "It's a fragment of a neutron star, ejected from a binary system that collapsed approximately 1,000 years ago." "And its trajectory?" Nixus asked, though she already suspected the answer from Varn's disturbed state. "It will pass within half a light-year of Paradise Station. The gravitational effects alone." Varn's voice trailed off as they projected the simulation. Nixus watched as the holographic representation of Paradise Station began to distort under the massive gravitational forces. Even at half a light-year's distance, the neutron star fragment's gravity would be enough to tear the station apart. "Time until critical proximity." 38 standard days, Varn responded. "We've already contacted the Galactic Council's emergency response fleet. They're dispatching their heaviest gravitational tugs, but what? The nearest fleet is stationed at the Centaurus hub. Even at maximum speed, they won't arrive for 42 days. Nixus felt her scales fade to a pale gray, her species' involuntary response to fear. Paradise Station housed over 3 million beings from across the galaxy, including some of the most influential members of galactic society. The station's own gravitational stabilizers were the most advanced in known space, but they weren't designed to handle forces of this magnitude. "Evacuation preparations should begin immediately," she started, but Varn interrupted with an urgent light pulse. "There's more, Administrator. The fragment's trajectory isn't natural. The probability of it passing this close to a major station." The crystalline being's light patterns became chaotic. Someone or something adjusted its course. "This is deliberate." The implications hit Nixus like a plasma burst. Paradise Station wasn't just facing a natural disaster. This was an attack. But who would have both the technological capability and the sheer audacity to weaponize a piece of neutron star? A soft chime interrupted her thoughts. "Administrator," her AI assistant announced, "we're receiving an unexpected response to our emergency broadcast." "The Council fleet?" she asked hopefully. "No. It's a human mining fleet from the Perseus arm. They're offering assistance." Humans. Nixus had read reports about Earth's recent entrance into the galactic community. Their technology was primitive by Council standards. They still used chemical rockets for some of their planetary operations, for stars' sake. But they had gained a curious reputation in their brief time among the stars. "Put them through," she ordered, more out of courtesy than any real hope of assistance. The holographic display shifted to show a human female with dark skin and close-cropped silver hair. She wore what appeared to be a standard mining operator's suit, though it was heavily modified with equipment Nixus didn't recognize. "Paradise Station. This is Captain Diana Chen of the deep space mining vessel Earthbreaker," the human announced. "We picked up your distress call. Our fleet is 2 days out from your position, and we have experience with gravitational anomalies." Varn's crystalline form flickered with what might have been derision. "Captain, we appreciate your offer, But this situation involves forces beyond the capabilities of mining vessels. The gravitational stresses involved are similar to what we deal with in deep space mineral extraction. Chen interrupted smoothly. We have a fleet of 12 ships equipped with modified gravity manipulators. We've handled neutron star fragments before. There's good money in harvesting their exotic matter, assuming you can keep your ship from being turned into cosmic spaghetti. Nixis and Varn exchanged glances. The idea of anyone deliberately approaching a neutron star fragment for profit seemed insane, yet the human captain spoke of it as routinely as discussing atmospheric processing. 2 questions, Captain, Nixis said carefully. First, what makes you think you can succeed where our own technology cannot? And second, why would you risk your fleet to help us? Chen's expression softened slightly. Administrator, humans have been mining asteroids and comets since before we achieved reliable faster-than-light travel. We learned to work with gravity rather than against it. As for why, she shrugged. Because you need help, and we can provide it. Sometimes it's that simple. Nixis studied the human's face, noting the fine lines around her eyes that humans called laugh lines, but which seemed to speak more of determination than humor. Their technology might be primitive, but there was something in the captain's confidence that gave her pause. Send us your proposal, Captain, she said finally. We'll review it immediately. As the transmission ended, Varn's crystalline form pulsed with concern. First Administrator, surely you're not considering. I'm considering everything. Nixis interrupted, her scales shifting to the deep blue of intense thought. If this is indeed an attack, then perhaps what we need isn't the most advanced technology, but the most unexpected response. She turned back to the window, watching the eternal dance of ships around Paradise Station. Somewhere out there, someone had thrown a piece of neutron star at her station, thinking they knew exactly how the situation would play out. They hadn't counted on humans being nearby. Humans who, apparently, hunted neutron star fragments for profit. Maybe, just maybe, that would make all the difference. The human mining fleet dropped out of FTL Drive in a cascade of blue-white energy, their massive hulls reflecting the distant starlight. To the refined sensibilities of Paradise Station's inhabitants, they were a shocking sight. Each vessel bore the scars and patches of countless repairs, their hulls a patchwork of different materials and makeshift modifications. They looked less like spaceships and more like orbital scrapyards. Captain Diana Chen stood on the bridge of the Earthbreaker, studying the holographic display of Paradise Station. Beautiful piece of engineering, she muttered, but built with too much focus on aesthetics and not enough on structural resilience. She turned to her chief engineer. Raj, what's your assessment? Raj Patel ran his fingers through his graying beard, his augmented eyes zooming in on various sections of the station. Their gravitational stabilizers are top-notch, but they're designed for precision, not raw power. It's like using a scalpel when you need a sledgehammer. First Administrator Nixis is ready for our briefing, announced Sarah Martinez, the communications officer. Her cybernetic interface implants flickered as she processed the incoming data streams. The holographic conference room materialized around them, creating the illusion that they were standing in Paradise Station's elegant command center. Nixis's scaled form shimmered with barely concealed anxiety, while Varn's crystalline structure pulsed with what Chen had learned to recognize as skepticism. Captain Chen, Nixis began, we've reviewed your proposal. It's unprecedented. Most effective solutions are, Chen replied with a slight smile. Administrator, your station's gravity technology is trying to create a perfect bubble of stable space. That's impossible against something this massive. Instead, we propose creating a gravitational lens effect. Raj stepped forward, bringing up a detailed technical simulation. We'll position our ships in a modified Hoffman array, using our gravity manipulators to create a series of overlapping fields. Instead of fighting the fragment's gravity, we'll redirect it, like a river flowing around a rock. Impossible, Varn interrupted, their crystalline form flickering rapidly. The power requirements alone would be massive. Chen agreed. That's why we brought these. She gestured, and the simulation showed massive devices attached to each mining ship. Gravitational siphons. We use them to harvest exotic matter from neutron star fragments. Modified, they can channel the fragment's own gravitational energy to power our deflection field. Nixus's scales shifted to a deep purple, a color Chen didn't recognize. You intend to use the very force threatening us as a power source. Sometimes the best way to defeat an enemy is to turn their strength against them, Chen said. We learned that lesson the hard way in the asteroid fields of Sol. Lost a lot of good ships and crews before we figured out you can't brute force your way through space. The holographic display shifted to show the mining fleet's current positions. 12 ships, arranging themselves in a complex three-dimensional pattern that seemed chaotic at first glance, but followed a precise mathematical formula. There's something else you should know, Chen added, her expression growing serious. The trajectory analysis from our nav computer confirms your suspicions. This was definitely a deliberate attack. The precision required to aim a neutron star fragment. Only a handful of species have that capability. The revelation sent visible waves of distress through both alien leaders. Do you have any idea, Wu? Nixus began, but Chen held up a hand. My second in command, Lisa Wang, is a former military intelligence analyst. She's identified several possible suspects, but that's not our immediate concern. Right now, we need to focus on survival. Officer Wang can share her findings with your security team afterward. Varn's crystalline form had taken on a deep, troubled hue. Your plan, the gravitational forces involved, even if it works, the stress on your ships will be enormous. They weren't designed for this kind of operation. Chen laughed, the sound surprisingly warm in the tense atmosphere. Senior scientist, human ships are never used for what they were designed for. Half our breakthrough technologies came from jury-rigging equipment in emergencies. The Earthbreaker started life as a water tanker for Martian colonies. Now she hunts neutron stars. She gestured at the simulation again, showing the predicted gravitational flows. We've reinforced our hulls with a lattice of carbon nanotubes and metamaterials. It's not pretty, but it's stronger than anything that came out of a shipyard. Every patch, every modification, every ugly weld represents a lesson learned the hard way. Nixus studied the simulation for several long moments, her scales shifting through various colors as she considered the proposal. Finally, they settled on a deep, steady blue. How quickly can you begin? We're already in position, Chen replied. My crews started moving into the Hoffman array the moment we dropped out of FTL. Humans have a saying, better to ask forgiveness than permission. Though in this case, we were pretty confident you'd see things our way. The aliens exchanged glances, and Chen could almost feel them reevaluating their assumptions about humanity. Yes, human ships were ugly. Their technology was cobbled together from whatever worked. But there was a reason they'd survived and thrived in the harshest environments space had to offer. There is one more thing, Chen added, her tone growing more serious. We detected some unusual energy signatures from the fragment. Raj. The chief engineer nodded, bringing up a new set of scans. There's technology embedded in it, some kind of guidance system, heavily shielded. Whoever launched this attack, they're not just trying to destroy the station. They're using it as a test. A test. Nixus's scales paled. For what? To see if it's possible to weaponize neutron star fragments, Chen said grimly. Which means stopping this isn't just about saving Paradise Station anymore. It's about preventing the development of a weapon that could threaten every inhabited system in the galaxy. The revelation hung in the holographic space like a physical weight. Chen watched as understanding dawned in the aliens' expressions. This wasn't just a rescue mission anymore. It was a race to prevent a potential apocalypse. How long until the fragment enters critical range? Chen asked. 36 hours, Varn replied, their crystalline form pulsing with new urgency. Chen nodded. Then we'd better get to work. Humanity's about to show the galaxy why we never let little things like impossible stop us. The void between Paradise Station and the approaching neutron star fragment had become a symphony of gravitational forces. The human mining fleet hung in their precise Hoffman array, their modified gravity manipulators creating overlapping fields that shimmered with exotic radiation. From the station's observation deck, it looked like someone had painted Aurora Borealis across space itself. Energy levels holding steady, Raj reported from his station aboard the Earthbreaker. His augmented eyes tracked dozens of redouts simultaneously, their cybernetic displays reflecting off the deep creases in his face. Gravitational siphons are performing at 115% of rated capacity. 115. Lisa Wong looked up from her tactical display, her military training evident in her rigid posture. That's well beyond safety margins. Raj. Safety margins are for people who never had to restart a fusion reactor with duct tape and prayer. Raj replied with a grim smile. I've reinforced the containment fields. They'll hold. Captain Chen watched the gravitational flow patterns on the main display, her expression focused. Years of deep space mining had taught her to read gravitational currents like a sailor reading ocean waves. Something's not right, she muttered. The fragment's mass is fluctuating. On Paradise Station, First Administrator Nixis and Senior Scientist Varn watched their own readings with growing concern. The human's gravitational lens is working, Varn admitted, their crystalline form pulsing with reluctant admiration. But these energy signatures, they're unlike anything in our database. Nixis's scales shifted to a deep crimson of concern. Could it be the embedded technology Captain Chen detected? Before Varn could respond, new alarms screamed across both human and alien displays. The neutron star fragment was changing, its already immense gravitational field beginning to pulse in a distinct pattern. It's not just guidance technology. Chen's voice cut across all command channels. That fragment's been hollowed out. It's a delivery system. Raj, full spectrum analysis, now. The chief engineer's augmented eyes widened as new data flooded his displays. They've created a containment system inside the fragment itself. There's something in there, some kind of artificial singularity. Impossible. Varn's crystalline form strobed with disbelief. The technological requirements for artificial singularity containment are beyond even the most advanced council races. Unless, Lisa interjected, her military training kicking in, someone found a way to use neutron star matter itself as a containment vessel. The fragment isn't just the delivery system, it's part of the weapon. Chen's mind raced through the implications. Someone had not only managed to aim a neutron star fragment, but had turned it into a sophisticated weapons platform. If it worked, they'd have a way to deliver artificial singularities to any target in the galaxy. The destruction would be beyond catastrophic. Change of plans, she announced, her voice carrying the weight of command. We're not just redirecting this thing anymore. We need to disable it before whoever built it can get their test data. Raj, remember that crazy idea you had during the Cirrus incident? The engineer's face split in a wide grin. The gravity inverter. The one that almost got us court-martialed by the mining authority. That's the one. Can you modify our gravitational siphons to create a similar effect? It would overload half our systems, Raj warned, already beginning the calculations. We'd be converting our entire fleet into one massive gravity inverter. One mistake, and we'd tear our own ships apart. Better our ships than every inhabited world in the galaxy, Chen replied. She opened a channel to Paradise Station. Administrator, we need to adjust our approach. Your station's gravitational stabilizers, can they be reprogrammed to act as amplifiers? Nixis turned to Varn, who pulsed with uncertainty. Technically, yes, but it would mean shutting down all stabilization across the station. We'd be completely vulnerable to gravitational stress. Not completely, Chen corrected. The gravitational lens we've created will shield you from the worst effects, but we need your stabilizer's output to create a powerful enough inverse field. There was a moment of heavy silence as Nixis considered the request. Chen could almost see the calculations running behind those alien eyes, not just of physics and probability, but of politics and responsibility. The station's governing council will never approve such a risky. Varn began, but Nixis cut them off. The council is not here. I am. And I would rather risk the station than allow this weapon to be perfected. Her scales shifted to a deep, resolute gold. Tell us what you need, Captain. The next hours were a blur of activity. The human fleet began the delicate process of modifying their gravity siphons while maintaining the protective lens field. Paradise Station's systems were reprogrammed, transforming the massive structure from a passive observer into an active participant in what Chen had started calling Operation Gravity Dance. All ships report ready, Lisa announced. Gravitational siphons reconfigured. Paradise Station's systems are synchronized with our fleet's control network. Chen took a deep breath, studying the holographic representation of their jury-rigged weapon. It was exactly the kind of impossible, desperate solution that humans seem to specialize in, taking proven principles and applying them in ways their inventors had never imagined. Begin power-up sequence, she ordered. Let's show whoever built this thing why you should never underestimate human ingenuity. The void between Paradise Station and the approaching fragment began to shimmer with new energies as 12 mining ships and one luxury space station prepared to attempt something that had never been done before, using gravity itself as a weapon against a weaponized neutron star fragment. Ready or not, Chen muttered, it's time to make the stars dance. The first sign that something was wrong came as a low vibration through the hull of the Earthbreaker. Captain Chen felt it in her bones, a deep resonance that shouldn't have been there. 20 years of deep space mining had taught her to trust those instincts. Raj, she called out, status on the gravitational harmonics. The chief engineer's augmented eyes flickered rapidly as he processed multiple data streams. The interference pattern isn't forming correctly. The fragment's internal singularity is generating some kind of quantum feedback loop. It's like it's learning from our attempts to contain it. On Paradise Station's command deck, senior scientist Varn's crystalline form pulsed with increasing anxiety. The artificial singularity appears to be actively adapting to our gravitational manipulations. This technology is far beyond anything we've encountered. Beyond your technology, maybe, Lisa Wong interjected, her military training evident in her clipped tones. But it's following patterns I've seen before. This has all the hallmarks of the Omega Directive. Chen's head snapped around. The Black Ops Research Division that disappeared after the Mars incident. You think they're behind this? It fits their methodology, Lisa confirmed. They were working on adaptive quantum technologies before they went dark. We always wondered where they ended up. A new alarm shrieked through the command channel. Power fluctuations in the gravitational siphons, Raj reported. The feedback is causing cascade failures in the containment fields. We got maybe 20 minutes before they collapse completely. On Paradise Station, the situation was deteriorating just as rapidly. Station stabilizers are failing, Varn announced, their crystalline structure showing stress fractures from the intense gravitational forces. We need to abort the operation and begin evacuation procedures immediately. First Administrator Nixis's scales had turned a pale, almost translucent color of fear, but her voice remained steady. How many can we evacuate in 20 minutes? Perhaps 30% of the station's population, Varn replied. And that's assuming we can maintain gravitational stability long enough for the evacuation ships to launch. Chen listened to the exchange, her mind racing through options. The original plan had failed. The weapon was too sophisticated, too adaptive. But there was something about the way it was reacting, something that tickled at the edge of her consciousness. Raj, she said suddenly, remember that accident in the Kuiper Belt? The one that nearly got us killed. The engineer's eyes widened. The resonance cascade. You can't be serious. That was a disaster. A disaster that taught us something valuable about gravitational harmonics. Chen turned to the main display. Administrator Nixis, what if I told you there was another option? One with about a 60% chance of success, but which would definitely destroy our entire fleet if it fails. Nix's scales shifted through several colors before settling on a deep, determined blue. Compared to the certainty of losing 70% of my people. Tell me. Chen nodded to Raj, who brought up a new simulation. Instead of fighting the feedback loop, we lean into it. Create a deliberate resonance cascade, but controlled. Use the fragment's own adaptive capabilities against it. The theory is sound, Varn admitted, studying the simulation. But the precision required. One miscalculation and the cascade could tear apart both our fleet and the station. That's why we're not going to rely on theory, Chen replied. Raj, upload the sensor logs from the Kuiper Belt incident to all ships. We're going to do this by feel, just like we learned in the belt. By feel. Varn's crystalline form flickered with disbelief. You can't possibly mean to handle these gravitational forces based on intuition. That's exactly what I mean, Chen said firmly. Your computers can't predict how this weapon will adapt, but human instinct, backed by experience, that's something it can't calculate for. Lisa's tactical display suddenly lit up with new alerts. Multiple FTL signatures detected. Large fleet approaching from the Centaurus direction. The Council Emergency Response Fleet, Nix's said. They're ahead of schedule. Chen checked the time estimates. They'll arrive in 22 minutes. Unfortunately, that's 2 minutes too late to help us make this decision. The command deck fell silent as the implications sank in. Wait for the Council fleet and lose the station, or trust in human intuition and experience, with both their lives and the future of Paradise Station hanging in the balance. How sure are you that this will work? Nixis asked quietly. Chen met the alien administrator's four-eyed gaze through the holographic link. About as sure as I was the first time I tried to capture a comet with a mining tether. Sometimes you have to trust that experience and instinct count for more than theory. Nixis's scales shifted to a color Chen had never seen before, a deep, almost luminous purple. The Council would call this decision irrational. The Council isn't here, Chen replied, echoing Nix's earlier words. We are, and sometimes the most rational choice is to trust in experience over theory. The alien administrator was silent for a long moment. Around them, both the station and the mining fleet groaned under the increasing gravitational stresses. Finally, her scales settled into a steady, determined hue. Proceed with your plan, Captain, she said. Let us see what human intuition can accomplish. The space between Paradise Station and the approaching neutron star fragment had become a maelstrom of gravitational forces. The human mining fleet's formation had shifted, their ships moving in an intricate dance that seemed to defy both physics and logic. To the approaching Council Emergency Response Fleet, it must have looked like madness. Resonance cascade building, Raj reported, his augmented eyes tracking energy patterns that computer systems could barely detect. 70% of theoretical maximum, 80%. Hold position. Chen commanded, her hands gripping her chair as the Earthbreaker shuddered around her. She could feel the gravitational forces through the hull, not through instruments, but through years of experience that had taught her to read space like an ancient sailor reading the sea. Wait for it. On Paradise Station, Varn's crystalline form was showing hairline fractures from stress. The gravitational stresses are exceeding all safe parameters. The station's structural integrity. Will hold, Nixis interrupted, her scales shimmering with a combination of fear and determination. Trust them. The artificial singularity within the fragment was responding exactly as Chen had hoped, its adaptive algorithms attempting to counter each gravitational shift from the human fleet. But there was a pattern to the human ship's movements that no algorithm could predict, because it wasn't based on mathematical precision, but on human intuition honed by countless near disasters. 90% of theoretical maximum, Raj called out. We're approaching critical resonance. Lisa's tactical display was a chaos of warnings. Council fleet is broadcasting emergency halt signals. They're ordering us to stand down. Can't stop now, Chen muttered, feeling the vibrations change through her boots. This was the moment she'd been waiting for. the same harmonic resonance she'd felt just before the Kuiper Belt accident. All ships, execute pattern Omega on my mark. The fragment's internal singularity was spinning faster now, its containment systems struggling to adapt to the chaotic gravitational fields around it. Inside the weapon, automated systems tried to predict and counter each shift in the gravitational lens, but the humans weren't following any predictable pattern. Now, Chen shouted. As one, the mining fleet executed a maneuver that looked like a catastrophic failure of their formation. Ships spun and twisted, their gravity manipulators creating a seemingly random pattern of gravitational distortions. But to Chen's experienced eye, it was anything but random. The effect was immediate and devastating. The fragment's adaptive systems, trying to compensate for what they interpreted as a total collapse of the human fleet's containment field, overreacted. The artificial singularity's spin rate doubled, then tripled, creating exactly the kind of resonance cascade that had nearly killed Chen's crew in the Kuiper Belt. Containment breach detected in the fragment. Lisa reported triumphantly. The weapon's systems are failing. All ships, emergency withdrawal. Chen ordered. Raj, initiate gravitational pulse on my mark. The mining fleet's retreat looked as chaotic as their attack, but each ship moved with precise coordination, their seemingly erratic course taking them clear of the fragment's influence. As the last ship reached safe distance, Chen gave the order. Mark. A pulse of concentrated gravitational energy, the combined output of 12 mining ships and Paradise Station's stabilizers, struck the fragment. The weapon's already destabilized containment systems couldn't handle the sudden spike. With a flash of radiation that briefly outshone Paradise Station's local star, the artificial singularity collapsed in on itself, taking the fragment and its advanced technology with it. In the silence that followed, Chen could hear the Council fleet's approaching hails, their signals filled with a mixture of disbelief and demand for explanation. But it was the transmission from Paradise Station that she answered first. How? Varn asked, their crystalline forms still showing stress fractures, but pulsing with undisguised amazement. How did you know that would work? Chen smiled, remembering the lessons learned in a lifetime of facing down space's deadliest hazards with whatever tools were at hand. Because some things can't be calculated. Sometimes you have to trust in human instinct and experience. The Council will want a full investigation. Nixis noted, her scales now showing colors of relief and what Chen had learned to recognize as amusement. They'll spend years trying to understand exactly how you did this. Let them investigate, Chen replied. Some things can't be learned from theory. They have to be lived. Hours later, as Paradise Station's medical teams treated the injured and repair crews began assessing damage, Chen stood at a viewport watching the Council fleet take up protective positions around the station. Their ships were beautiful, perfect examples of advanced engineering and design. Yet they had arrived too late to help, while a fleet of ugly, patched-up mining vessels had saved millions of lives. Captain, Lisa called from her station. I've completed my analysis of the weapon's remnants. The quantum signature confirms it. This was definitely Omega Directive technology. They're out there somewhere, watching. Chen nodded grimly. Let them watch. Let them see what happens when they underestimate humanity's capacity for turning theory into practice. She turned to her crew, seeing the same determination reflected in their tired faces. And let them learn what we've always known. That the most powerful force in the universe isn't technology or theory, but human ingenuity and the wisdom to know when to trust it. As the Earthbreaker's crew began their post-action procedures, Chen could see Council investigators already heading toward her ship, no doubt eager to understand exactly how a fleet of mining vessels had succeeded where their most advanced theories said success was impossible. She smiled, knowing they'd never fully understand. Some lessons couldn't be taught. They had to be learned the hard way, out in the black where theory met reality, and where human instinct and experience often meant the difference between life and death. That was humanity's real gift to the galaxy, not just the ability to survive, but to thrive by turning every disaster into a lesson, and every lesson into a tool for facing the next impossible challenge. The Council fleet's perfect ships might be the future the galaxy thought it wanted, but humanity's battered, patched, and battle-tested vessels represented the future it needed, one where experience counted for more than theory, and where the impossible was just another problem waiting for a human solution.